Welcome back to NBA Chemistry class. I'm Professor Ledlow, taking young Brendan and Mike to school. And now we're traveling west to Minnesota. The Timberwolves, young talent that added a veteran presence in the offseason, a top 4 Western Conference team thus far through 3 weeks. You can take a look at the numbers and the improvement that has happened there. 8th in the league in offensive rank, but very close to the bottom on defense. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2004, but looking like they could be a playoff team, Coach.
Well, let's look what Tom Thibodeau did. He said, look, enough of this young roster stuff and developing way down the road. I want to get rid of some of these young guys and bring in some veteran guys. So think about these names that he got rid of. Caspi, he's with Golden State right now. Dunn is in Chicago. Zach LaVine is in Chicago. Ricky Rubio is in Utah. Lance Stevenson is back in Indiana. He said, look, you guys, pretty good players, some of our future, and Chris Dunn, but you're out of here. I got to rebuild this thing.
Yeah, they lost a lot of guys, but they also brought in a lot of veteran presence. When you talk about Taj Gibson, Jimmy Butler, Jeff T, they have a lot of guys now that can replace those guys, but more importantly, they have playoff experience. They're battle-tested. They've been through it. Part of the problem with this team last year, besides their defense, was the fact the Minnesota Timberwolves kept finding ways to lose close games in the fourth quarter. You know how you get rid of that problem? You bring in vets that know how to win, that know where to be in those type of situations, and that can totally change how you play in the fourth quarter. It can also change your locker room.
You know who he didn't get rid of? A guy named Wiggins and a guy named Carl Anthony
Those guys
Towns.
are pretty good, Coach.
He kind of kept them around. I like that decision-making
They
in
seem
this
to
one.
be living up to the hype,
Oh, yeah.
I think. Do you like how this bubbles, though, by the way?
Oh, yes. You're all for the bubbles, I see.
It's not a sound effect. Like, that is real.
It's the simple things in life that make you happy.
It really is. Well, in my classroom, this is what makes me happy. Meanwhile, the Thunder become the OK3 with the addition of perennial All-Stars Carmelo Anthony and Paul George, already to the reigning MVP Russell Westbrook. They're sitting right at 500 thus far. Melo told me he was actually tired of hearing the question about 3 superstars sharing 1 ball, but it's something that we must discuss, guys. Each of these guys is already averaging right at 20 points a game. Russ has 4 triple-doubles through the first 8 games, so it seems to be working.
You have 3 guys who are ball-dominant players. Billy Donovan, the head coach, his job and responsibility is to try and figure all of this out and get them to play together, get them to defend at the same time, and get them to win a lot of basketball games in the Western Conference. And by the way, they gave up a couple pretty good young players to wind up with a Paul George. Sabonis is playing, like crazy for Indiana right now, double-double after given the opportunity. When Turner went out, he stepped in, and he's been sensational. Oladipo right now is playing out of his mind, the best he's ever played. So I don't know if they have enough depth. I think Billy Donovan will get them to play together offensively, but depth is my concern.
The chemistry with this team, with all these other teams we've been talking about, the chemistry defensively, their defensive rotations. With this team, I'm not worried about that. It's the chemistry of how do you massage and manage all of these egos, and are they willing to sacrifice? And the early answer is yes. Russell Westbrook is still averaging a triple-double. He's getting his, but he's sharing with Carmelo. He's sharing with Paul George. And the biggest thing is no one cares who gets the credit. A lot of times when you bring in 3 guys with big egos, you have guys saying, hey, is it my team? Is it your turn? Is it your team? Is it my turn? Is it your turn? They're not about mine. They're not about egos. They're not about me. They're about we. And that's why this OKC team is going to work right now. And that's the part of the chemistry I'm really worried about with OKC.
That's also why this chemistry class has worked. We have taken 3 rather large egos. Brendan, young Mikey, you both have done your homework and have passed NBA chemistry.
Coach is always good in school.
Class is officially dismissed, and Game Time, presented by State Farm, will continue after this.
What's my letter grade, Kristen? I get an A?
Not in behavior.
What? Come on, man. Well, I was never well behaved in school, I'll tell you that much.
Disruptive.
I was smart, though.